everyone. You're welcome to today's episode of the Tech Talk Show with me, Kazeem. In the last episode, we looked at 10 tips that would help you make the most of Microsoft Azure. But on today's episode of the show, we're switching gears somewhat. So today, we're going to be looking at Microsoft 365. And specifically on today's episode, we're going to be talking 10 Office 365 or 10 Microsoft 365 tips that will make you more productive. And Chris is back on the show with us to walk us through things today. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Kazeem. Thank you ever so much for having me back on the show. I think it was about 2 months ago, but it seems like a week ago with so much going on. Thanks, everyone, for taking the time again to come along and see me. And I hope within the next 25 minutes, and I'll try to talk quicker this time, we get through 10 tips with Office 365 that can help to make you more productive. Now, just to kick things off, why I chose these 10 tips. I use these 10 tips daily. These features are all general availability so that you can use them right away after this session. And I want to keep things simple as well. I want it to be that you don't have to be advanced in tech to go along and use them. Now we're talking about productivity, right? So when I think about productivity, I'm going to think about things that save me time. I'm going to think about things that help me to achieve more with the time that I have. And also as well, it's all about raising quality and return. So if I do something, I want it to have a bigger return than it did previously. As said, this is all about using things or applying things that I use every day. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of productivity hacks for Office 365, but these are the ones which, when I really thought about them, I thought, wow, they really help me. So number 10, same format as before. We'll work down from 10 all the way down to 1. Learn about your communication and collaboration apps. So what I mean by this is try to get to understand a little bit about Office or Microsoft 365 and what these apps are designed to do. I want to take a first example. How do we communicate with other users inside our organization? Now, we can use Teams, or we can use Yammer, or we can use Outlook to do this, for example. But it's all about communicating in different ways. And each of these applications are designed for a different type of communication. Teams, for example, is all about inner loop communication. In other words, that means communicating with people within your immediate team. So we might be having short conversations with instant messages, and we might use those teams to go back and forth or jump into a call or go back to instant messaging. Yammer, on the other hand, is an application that's designed to reach people outside of your team across the whole organization. Imagine if you're a student within a university, you would use Yammer not just for your class, but maybe your whole department or indeed your whole university. So Yammer is as much about broadcasting, very similar to Twitter or even Facebook, as opposed to those short, sharp communications with instant messages inside the team. Outlook, on the other hand, the traditional email, is more towards targeted communications, that one-on-one, writing out a slightly longer email, maybe explaining an issue or an inquiry. Now, those type of longer targeted communications we wouldn't do in Teams, because that would mean that it would be visible to the other team, and we wouldn't do that in Yammer because we don't want to broadcast to the whole organization. So get to know what each application is designed to do. The second example is this can also be applied for tasks. So we have Planner, and we have lists, and we have to do, and we will soon have tasks for teams. So use information that's out there and available over the internet to compare them and see what is best for you to be able to do your work. So all of this, what is the point of this? It's about good user education. If we are educating our users what the apps are designed to do and what's the best app for what we're trying to achieve, then it's going to make us more productive. And on an added note, Microsoft have recently released productivity score. So that's currently available in private preview. You can turn that on with inside the Microsoft 365 portal. So if I jump into the admin center, when I log in, if I'm an administrator, and I go down to the admin, I will then open up the admin page, and then under reports, you will see the productivity score. Now, when you first select the productivity score, you will need to turn it on, and it can take 2 to 4 hours in order to be able to collect and harvest the data from your environment. Now, with productivity score, as you can see, it gives you a communication or a collaboration score inside your environment, which can then help you to go on and maybe think about changing your strategy or changing your education for your users. So let's just click on this communication. You can see X amount of my users are using email, none are using chat within Teams, and some are posting to Yammer. If we're seeing too many people using email and not enough using chat or using posts, then what that means is that they're using a lot of email and Outlook as opposed to using Teams and Yammer. If they've got a concentration on one app rather than the other, then that probably means that they're trying to do all their communications through a single app. So productivity score, light it up with inside your environments, have a look. That can be used alongside user education to help your users communicate and be more productive. Point number 9, I'm going to move on to the OneDrive sharing report. Now, I work in collaboration on files with a lot of users, both inside and outside my organization. But from time to time, I need to be able to review them, because what you don't want to do is to have documents that you own and that you manage where you don't know who has permissions on and who you've actually shared them with. And it becomes very easy to forget that those documents are shared outside of your organization. So what's an easy and quick way that we can find out what files we are sharing with others? And this is the OneDrive sharing report, but not a lot of people actually know about this. And as said, I use it almost every week. So with inside Microsoft 365, you would go to OneDrive. So here's my OneDrive that's just loading up. Now, when OneDrive loads up and you can see all my files in there, I do not want to have to go through and look at all the sharing permissions for each individual file. That's just going to take me way too long. So instead, I come up to the settings and I go to the OneDrive settings. I will now go to more settings and I can then run a sharing report. And if I click and run that sharing report, it'll ask me for a folder to put it in OneDrive. I will then go back to my OneDrive. So this is just going to go back to where my files are. I will click inside the sharing report and there will be my sharing report. And if I open that report, it will give me a complete breakdown of all of my files, everything that I'm sharing with other people. And in getting that report, I can then go and remove permissions for my files, keep it all in order, make sure that all my files are secured. Number 8, using designer or ideas for your Office apps. I'm a presenter. I speak on the speaking circuit, both in Europe and around the world. It takes me time in order to be able to create my slide decks, for example, in order to be able to do presentations. I want to be able to create my slide decks very, very quickly, or alternatively, if I'm in Excel and I have a lot of data, I want to be able to create visualizations very, very quickly. Well, using Designer and Ideas, we can do that. With inside PowerPoint, we have PowerPoint Designer. Within Excel, we have Excel Ideas. So let me just go and give you a quick demo of them. This is a new PowerPoint presentation. When I start up that new PowerPoint presentation, I will have design ideas down the right-hand side. And these will be nice looking slides. So rather than me having to spend time dragging and dropping images or creating boxes or icons on that slide, Design Ideas presents me with a load of ready to go slides. So I'm just going to click on one here. You can see that's my slide. So instead of having to format this, I will then just have to change the title and change the subtitle, maybe with a 1 or 2 icon ads. And we can build our decks using the design ideas. Now, design ideas is based upon AI. So if you choose a certain kind of style of deck, then you will see them up the top here, as opposed to in order of which you've chosen them. You also have in Excel ideas. So let's say that I want to easily create a visualization of my data. I would go up to ideas. You can see that the ideas are loading up. I haven't got any already tables or data within there, but you could just gonna click try the sample data. And so it's populated with sample data. And these are the ideas. Microsoft then gives me visualizations, whether they're a pivot table or a pivot chart, that I can choose straight away to be able to analyze my data. Both the PowerPoint Designer and the Excel ideas can save me huge amount of time in producing slide decks or producing visualizations for my Excel data. Number 7, Q&A in Yammer. So digging into Yammer a little bit, one of the new functionalities that came in over the summer was the Q&A, the ability to ask questions across the whole organization. Now, this is one of the new Yammer functionalities. Yammer is pivoting from being an application that is very much post it and then people comment below it, to having this functionality such as Q&A, which makes it a lot more valuable. So let's say that I need to go and ask a question. You would come inside your Yammer community, you would ask that question. Okay, so I'm going to ask one, when can I speak on Tech Talk Wednesday again? And then I ask the question, that gets asked out, as said, across my whole department or my whole organization. Somebody can then come along and then answer your question. Can soon. Thanks, Kazeem. And then somebody will respond back to me, usually very quickly. And then if I like it and it's the right answer, I can then both like and I can set that answer as the best response. So Yammer is operating in this way more like a forum, as it's doing, rather than a broadcasting channel for your communications. I might ask inside my organization 3 or 4 questions a day, and usually they get answered from somebody very, very quickly. You could also look to set up an internal support Yammer group where people can go ask their questions. And again, you can have some dedicated individuals to maybe answer those questions. Number 6, leveraging My Analytics. So My Analytics is a service that's based upon AI, that is all about your working habits and you working smarter. 2 things you will see here. 1, you get an email through every week that's almost like your month in review. And you also have the My Analytics add-in to Outlook. Now, the reason this is important is because during this COVID-19 period, people are tending to break their working habits, and they tend to work longer. Maybe we need to actually reflect on that, reflect upon, are we having too many meetings? Are we not getting enough focus time? You can see here in my review that I got last month, am I able to disconnect and recharge? That's because I was involved in activity every single day of that month. Is that a good working habit? If I'm working each and every single day, am I being recharged? Am I taking a break? Am I able to give 100% in meetings when it needs to matter? My Analytics Also allows you to do things like set lunch breaks in your calendar, book out focus time. So if you've had too many meetings, book out focus time to focus on your work. If you're having too many meetings during the day and you're not getting enough focus and time, that's when people tend to work overtime or work late into the evening, when you have to ask yourself, should you be doing this? Should you be spending more time with your family and things that matter in your wider life? My Analytics is great to hold up that mirror, and you don't have to worry because the organization cannot see this or see this data. This is all designed personally for you. Number 5, stock photos and asset library in SharePoint Online. Now, I was talking about having to do talks, having to speak on the circuit, and when I'm creating my decks, one of the things that I'm always looking out for, okay, is photos with which to put on those decks and make them look nice. In addition, I tend to work with customers and build a lot of SharePoint sites, whether that's a team site or a communication site. Again, I'm always looking for images for those sites to make it very visual and very impactful. You can do this because SharePoint contains now contains what we call stock photos, which is a deep treasure trove of high-res images that you can use for both your SharePoint sites, and you can also save them and use them for PowerPoint. So if I jump into PowerPoint, this is my SharePoint site. I'm just going to edit that. So prepare your page for editing. You can see that I've injected an image web part into that. If I was to then browse the images, I can simply then click on stock images, and Microsoft have provided me with a great big vault of stock images, which is really, really helpful if I want to make impact, and I don't have to go on the internet. I don't have to rip them off of Google search or Bing search, and all of these images are royalty-free images, so I don't have to worry about copyright infringing, for example. In addition to the stock photos, it's also recommended you have the ability to create an asset site. So you can define a site as an asset site. Now, you would look to do this, the administrator on docs.com, but what that basically means is you create a site for your whole organization, which has all your photos, all your PowerPoint templates, all of your Word templates. This is what you can see, what it looks like down the bottom left-hand side. Having a central place for all your materials to work with if you're creating content is absolutely essential, and saves you having to chase all over your organization or across several different SharePoint sites to be able to find those assets. Now, having an asset site inside your organization also means that if you open Word or PowerPoint, you will then, if you create a new document, also have this new tab. So next to Office, it will have a tab for your organization. And again, all of your templates from the asset site will appear in your Word and PowerPoint documents. Really, really handy. Number 4, using PowerPoint Coach. If you do talks, one of the best ways to get good very, very quickly with public speaking is to use PowerPoint Coach. Now, PowerPoint Coach is available in the online version of PowerPoint. So you would come to your 365 portal, you would fire up PowerPoint, and in PowerPoint, once you've created your PowerPoint, you come to slideshow, and then you can click rehearse with coach. Now, rehearsing with the coach, what that will do is it uses AI to identify pauses or repetition of words or flow of your conversation. So this can help you. So in the long run, this is saving you a lot of time, because what it will mean is that it will give you feedback. You can go and work on your talk. It will also give you feedback on your slide deck as well. And let's say I'm doing a talk for 20 minutes, it will report at the end to say what I need to work on. It gives feedback. And what that means is by getting that feedback, you will write better presentations, you will be able to write them quicker, and you will be able to deliver, which will give you a greater return. Number 3, the OneDrive mobile scanner. So I don't know whether all of you use OneDrive as a mobile app. on your mobile phones. The OneDrive mobile app also encompasses, or should I say, has evolved from Office Lens to now have a scanner within the OneDrive app. The benefits of this is that you can scan straight into OneDrive for Business. So I'm often traveling, I need to scan receipts or documents or whiteboards or business cards. They will go straight into my OneDrive hold, and I can then use them or surface them within my Office apps or elsewhere within Office 365. I can even surface them within Teams. This is really, really handy for receipts and for having documents that I put into a PDF and again can send them on to the team. Building a Power App is also an alternative way of doing this. Number two, we have flows. Flows are now part of Power Automate. This is all about automating workflows between Microsoft 365 applications. If I go here to the Power Automate console, which is also available through the Microsoft 365 admin portal, I can go to templates. I don't just have to build these flows myself. Microsoft have provided me with hundreds of templates where I can link my applications together. So for example, let's just take this simple flow here, this template. Every time an email comes in with an attachment, that attachment is then saved to OneDrive for Business. All I need to do here is connect my Office 365 account. So what I do is I log in and connect the services together. So I'm just gonna log in here. You can see that they're now connected, and I then create a flow. Takes me all of 2 or 3 minutes to be able to create the flow, and that's up and operation inside my environment. So now I'm never going to have to save an attachment into my OneDrive again, because every attachment that comes in on an email is getting saved into my OneDrive automatically. So flows are a really, really good way of being able to automate that low-lying grind work that we don't want to be involved in. We don't need to be a high-end IT or a developer to make this work. We use the templates as users. Those templates are available to you. And finally, one that I can't even begin to say how many times I've used, ignore messages in Outlook. So ignoring messages in Outlook is all about selecting the message and then clicking ignore. Now, why do we do this? I'm part of many different teams inside my organization and many different distribution groups. And because I'm part of different distribution groups, people will email those distribution groups and then creates what we could call a mailstorm, whereby everyone starts on a reply all, and it just builds my mailbox up to epic proportions. All you need to do is select ignore on the one specific message that's come in, and that every email that's in that conversation thread will automatically go to the deleted items folder, and I will never be troubled again. So that's a good way to keep your mailbox down, or if you have a kind of feeling that people are going to reply all to this message and keep replying to all, you can stop it before it already starts. So that is my 10 tips for today. I hope they've all been useful. What's next for me? As you can see here, I'm speaking at Ignite next week. I hope you've all registered for that. I'm then speaking at Teams Day Online, and then finally Teams Fest at the end of October. I hope you can all join me for that one. But I would just like to take the opportunity to thank Kazeem once again.
Thanks a lot, Chris, for that excellent walkthrough of the Microsoft 365 tips. But let me ask you this, Chris. You've walked us through these 10 tips, but if you had to choose, you had to choose just one now, which one of these 10 tips that you walked us through today would you go with, and why?
One of the I think that the biggest one for me is flows. I think that being able to build flows between applications is so important. Now, the reason for that is because when you start beginning to understand how flows work, you can cut down on a lot of the work, which means you don't need to have to do. There's a big thinking in IT about being able to automate parts of roles. Some people get a bit worried about it, but I'm somebody who's very much pro automation because it gives us more time to be able to focus on more creative pursuits and things that we want to do rather than things that we have to do. So for me, flow is probably the most important one going forward, but the one that I use a lot and that I must admit I'm equally passionate about is ignoring those email conversations and making sure that they don't hit my inbox, because I'm involved in so many. It can be almost like firefighting. So if you can stop that, if you can give you breathing room during the day and not keep on getting this kind of constant stream of email, maybe only 30% is relevant for me and I can stop that before it's happening. That is really important. I use that practically every single, multiple times a day.
Okay. So you've heard it from Chris, and hope you've been able to learn a lesson or two from today's episode. I've been able to learn myself. Let me whet your appetite real quick about what to expect on the show next week. We're still going to be keeping with Microsoft 365. But next week, we're specifically going to be looking at OneDrive. And guess what? We're going to be having Mr. OneDrive himself on the show next week to walk us through things. So I bet you really don't want to miss the show next week. So any last word from you, Chris?
Been a pleasure once again. I look forward to hopefully coming back for a third time and sharing a little bit more with you. You've got such a good episode next week. I know Mr. OneDrive and I've known him for a while. I've spoken with him at events, and you're going to have another enjoyable episode.
Okay, so thank you so much for sharing your time and your knowledge with us on the show again. And for everyone watching or listening to us, let's do this again next week. And remember to subscribe to the channel on YouTube. It's the Tech Talk Wednesday with Kazeem on YouTube and across the other social media platforms as well. So from myself and Chris, it's a bye-bye, and I'll see you next week.